We are on a road trip across South Africa, traveling east from the beautiful city of Cape Town to my home city Port Elizabeth, and in the previous video we covered the first leg of the journey, which took us through the Cape Winelands, into the dry Karoo, through some stunning mountain passes, and into the old town of Oatlands. Today's journey takes us down from Oatlands towards George, and then east along the coast through South Africa's Garden Route. Quite possibly the most beautiful day trip you can do in South Africa. Our journey starts as we head out of Oatlands, and we slowly begin to see the dry red Karoo landscape become a little bit greener, and before we know it, we are winding through the Outeniqua Pass towards George. So this is the Outeniqua Pass behind me here, really beautiful. We had a little parking space where you pull off right next to the road and you can look out on these beautiful mountains. And I have a lot of memories here because I drove through here as a kid with my parents on the way through to Oatlands. I used to do gymnastics, so I had gym competitions there in Oatlands all the time, and I used to drive through from Port Elizabeth. But I've also had a few school history tours when I was in high school, where we actually went to a railway museum in George, hopped on a little train with a tour guide and went up a railway line that follows a very famous route called by train called the Outeniqua Choo-Choo, which goes through these mountains between George and Oatlands. What's interesting is that the Outeniqua actually is a Khoisan word. The Khoisan were the first indigenous people who lived here, and the word means, I think it's those who find honey or place of honey or something like that. But obviously the Khoisan people that lived here knew how to harvest honey from bees and use it, and that's what they were known for. Just a random interesting fact about the beautiful Outeniqua Mountains. But we're going to move on, go down into the garden route and move on to other things. Let's go do it. If you travel west from George, you'll find Mossel Bay, you'll find Hartenbos, and many more little beach towns, but we're traveling east, and our first contact with the ocean is at the Caimans River mouth, where the cold Caimans River, stained brown from the tannin in the forests above, meets with the warm Indian Ocean beneath an iconic railway bridge over which the Outeniqua Choo-Choo used to pass. Looking east from here, we see the small town of Wilderness, and there isn't really much to say about Wilderness other than to talk about how stunning it looks. It's very much a sleepy town where nothing really happens, and I know if I was retired and didn't have any big aspirations or any friends, I would definitely move here in a heartbeat. Plenty of beach walkers everywhere, plenty of surfers, pretty much a little paradise. So here's our first real taste of the garden route beaches. And it's really like this along the entire garden route, just beautiful yellow sand beaches, wild, but also areas where you can swim, which is great. A lot of surfing along here. That's the road we came on there, up on that bridge from George, and all the way back now to Port Elizabeth. We are along the coast, so you're going to see a lot of this. I want to put the drone up and let's get a nice aerial view of Wilderness. The stretch between Wilderness and our next stop, Knysna, is called the Lake District, and there are a number of little lakes along the coast and a town called Sedgefield right amongst these lakes, where you'll find a number of little lake resorts and holiday spots. The garden route really does have a little bit of everything, with mountains, rivers, lakes, and the ocean all in close proximity, which is all part of the charm, I think. And if it's water sports you enjoy, there's no better place to be than our next stop, Knysna. Knysna is built on a lagoon with houses on the cliffs overlooking the sea, houses on islands in the lagoon, and canals running through one of the islands. I've actually already made 2 Knysna vlogs, which I'll link down below, but it's an absolutely beautiful town with plenty of charm, especially at the waterfront, where you see some really nice yachts and plenty of little restaurants with good seafood. For the sake of time, we're not going to stop between Knysna and Plettenberg Bay, but there's so much to do here, especially if you like animals and nature. There's an elephant park, a wolf sanctuary, a snake park, a raptor park, bird and monkey sanctuaries, and plenty of little coffee shops. But if you're keen for an adventure, you can actually do a hiking trail through the Harkerville Forest, which takes 2 days and will show you the thick forest before taking you down to the wild coastline, where you'll need to face your fear of heights as you cross chain ladders, walk along cliffs, and even explore caves. I've done the hike twice, and it's something I would absolutely recommend. It doesn't cost much, and you don't really need to book long in advance because not many people know about it. On the other side of Harkeville is Plettenberg Bay, and we're not really going to stop here, but it's another great spot, and from Plet you can get an awesome view of the Formosa and Tsitsikamma mountains ahead. Portuguese sailors who first passed along this coastline named these mountains Formosa, meaning beautiful, and the highest in the range is Peak Formosa, which I actually attempted to climb a few years ago. I say attempted because I never actually made it to the top. It's a beautiful hike that takes you above the clouds, and it was going well until the mist cleared and revealed the last section up to the summit, which was very, very vertical. I went up with my dad, but close to the top we actually realized that we weren't properly prepared, especially since the weather wasn't too great, so we actually decided to turn back. One day I hope to make another attempt and maybe even make it to the top this time. Just past Plet you can turn off and take a winding road down through the forest and into Nature's Valley. You can see just how green and thick it is here. This is a proper rainforest and an awesome place to hike.
Now this is without a doubt probably one of my top 3 places in the country. I've come here quite a lot. There's a beautiful campsite at the back there where you can set up. This is all part of the Tsitsikamma National Forest over here. So you can camp in the national park. There's all kinds of interesting animals that come right up to you. So it's really, really beautiful. And it's only about maybe just over 2 hours from where I live in Port Elizabeth. So it's easy to come here for a day or two and really, really enjoy yourself. Now, Nature's Valley, apart from being like a holiday destination, is also the beginning and the end of some very, very well-known hikes. There's a hike called the Otter Trail, which starts in Tsitsikamma at Storms River, quite a far way that way down the coast, and this is the ending point. That's a 5-day hike, and it's so popular that you actually have to book like a year or two in advance because there's such a long waiting list. I haven't done that hike yet. There's also another hike called the Tsitsikamma hike. It's like 5 days, and I think it begins and ends over here in Nature's Valley. So this is a really, really well-known place for hiking. I've done quite a few local hikes around here, like day hikes. There's hikes that go down to a river mouth that way. There's hikes that go up to the top of the hill at the back there, and there's a hike that goes up to the top of that rock called Pig's Head, and that gives you a fantastic view of the town, just like probably what you saw from the drone now. So yeah, absolutely one of the best places to go, and the water's nice and warm here. As you can see, I'm just putting my feet in and cooling off a little bit. The water's fantastic. Comes down the river here. River water is quite cold, but the seawater is the Indian Ocean, so it's not the cold west coast water that you get from the Atlantic Ocean. It's the warm Indian Ocean water, so it's fantastic. I'm gonna probably just spend some time here enjoying myself, and then we're gonna head on to the next spot, which is something for the adrenaline junkies. So let's go do that. This whole stretch of coast along the Formosa and Tsitsikamma mountains has some really cool topography. The water from the mountain rain has cut some really deep cliffs and valleys all the way down to the ocean, and it's a beautiful thing to see, but one particular spot really stands out, and for a good reason too. The Bloukrans Bridge stretches across the Bloukrans River, which separates the Eastern Cape and Western Cape, and it looks like a normal bridge at first, but when you look closer you realize there are people beneath the bridge. This is the highest bungee bridge in the world at 216 meters, and it's an incredibly popular spot for tourists who are passing through. I haven't done the jump yet. I think I'd probably rather skydive, but maybe one day. There's a cool viewing platform though, so you can always watch other people jump if you don't want to do it yourself. If it's surfing you're into, then look no further than Jeffreys Bay. The town of J Bay is built entirely around surfing, and Super Tubes has been called the best point break in the world. There are no waves today, but when it's pumping, it's a real sight to behold. I actually lived here for a year, and I might even move back one day. I really, really enjoy the laid-back lifestyle, the stunning beach houses, and of course, the beautiful beaches. J Bay is probably one of the few places in the world where the farming and hunting culture and the surfing culture just seem to mix perfectly,
and that might explain why I am the way I am with long hair and flip-flops. In the background you can see another big mountain. This one is called the Coxcomb, and this is another one that I've climbed. It's a 2-day hike to the top, and when I was 11 years old I made it to the summit, which in hindsight I'm quite stoked about considering the altitude. Quite an awesome experience. And our final destination today, at the end of the garden route, is Port Elizabeth. This is by far the biggest city in the garden route, with more than 1.4 million people, but still considered a very small city compared to other South African cities. This is my home. I absolutely love the lifestyle and the weather, and the beaches are amazing. It's the perfect place for me because it gives me the laid-back lifestyle of the garden route, but also gives me easy access to all the game farms to the northeast, which is where most of my hunting is filmed. I'm hoping to show you some more of my hometown at some point, but for now we're going to call it a day. We'll leave that for another video. Once again, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you on the next one.